It's time for the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth, financial literacy educator and speaker, entrepreneur, and chairman of the board of a bank information. Take charge of your financial future with your personal bank. Now here's Ference Toth.
Welcome to the Your Personal Bank Show. And well, today we got a number of things to discuss on a big picture macroeconomic level, if you will, to use a big term. But we also have some causes for encouragement at the same time. So we're just going to cover a number of things, and a lot of questions folks have asked me recently that I think are very pertinent and timely. We'll put it that way. So first thing I just want to bring up is there's a little known price index. It's called the Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index. Now, the average person doesn't know what that is or ever heard of it, frankly, but this happens to be the Federal Reserve's favorite metric, their preferred metric for tracking inflation. And basically, really what it is again, it's personal consumption. It's how much stuff people are buying, right? And that's really what it's trying to measure. And of course, just like any other inflation measure you want to pick, whether it's consumer price index, producer price index, which we've talked about extensively in previous shows, which are all hitting, all-time highs or 40-year highs. This one's, of course, hitting new highs, highest in 40 years. The Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index, that's a mouthful, increased, 6.4% year over year as the end of February. Now, again, why that's so important is it's basically saying consumers are paying 6.4% more for stuff than they were the year before. But what's most important about this particular index is it's the favorite index the Federal Reserve uses, for fighting inflation. So, of course, as we all know, they've told us. The one thing I say about the Federal Reserve is even though they've been late to the party, they've been, they should have started raising rates easily a year or two prior than when they did. They've been telegraphing their actions very well. They've been very transparent so far with that, and hopefully they continue to do that because, they've done a lot of other things wrong, so maybe they can do this right, and that might help a bit. But the bottom line is, like they said, they raised the first interest rate increase they did just a couple of weeks or so ago, and they plan to, there's predicting 6 more rate hikes in 2022, 3 more in 2023. In other words, they're planning to bring the federal funds rate, which was 0 to 2.25%. So from 0 to 0.25%, which basically is 0, right, up to 2% by the end of 2022 and 3% by the end of 2023. Again, why is this so significant? Well, as many people know, previously, a month or so ago, you could have gotten a 30-year fixed mortgage with gold credit, really good credit in the 3% range. That same mortgage, by the end of 2023, about 18 months later, will run 6%, okay? And you can translate those types of interest charges on anything, all borrowing costs of all monies, for every type of lending, okay? So the federal funds rate sort of just is the benchmark. Again, all these things are all hitting 40-year highs. Again, the highest numbers we've seen, since the 1970s, and that is no surprise, okay? Now, in response to that, of course, and we've talked about a number of times on this show, is the number one cause of inflation is clearly is energy prices. You can't, high energy prices equals inflation, because energy, fuel, is what's used to transport basically every good that Americans purchase, food, you name it, okay? So it adds to the cost of literally everything, just about everything. So, and about a lot of economists have stated that our current inflation costs are anywhere from half to 2/3 are caused by the high gas prices, the high energy prices. Now, Biden is trying to blame it on Putin, but the reality is, if you look at the charts and if you have any kind of memory whatsoever, you fully know that the cost of energy started going up way before Putin invaded Ukraine. In fact, if you go back, the cost of energy started to increase as soon as Biden took office, and the reason behind it was very, very simple and very clear. His first day in office, he shut down the Keystone Pipeline. Now, I've even had discussions, even almost not arguments, but strong discussions, we'll put it that way, with even some clients and friends and such who said, well, taking the other side, saying, well, the pipeline wasn't going to bring new oil or, all that kind of stuff. It wasn't going to it wouldn't make that much a difference. And I disagree completely. You see, it's not just about the oil that particular pipeline was carrying. It's the message it sends to the energy industry. See, and then, of course, since then, there's been no new oil leases, okay, on federal lands. So it's basically the administration stating that the energy business is closed for business. We're not open for business. It sends a major, major negative to that industry. And if you're an investor on Wall Street or whatever, and you invest in energy projects, or you're an energy company that produces energy, natural gas, oil, whatever, and you have literally a hostile administration that's doing everything in their power to reduce energy production in this country, are you going to invest in a new project? Are you going to and if you do, I mean, the answer is probably not. But even if you did, understanding the risk is going to be much higher. There's probably going to be far more regulatory delays. So again, increasing the cost and risk significantly of that type of project. So again, it's just going to do everything to curtail production. And when you reduce production, in the number one oil producer in the world, in fact, I've got a chart here I'm looking at showing, oil production. We produce just under, at least in this, we produce somewhere around 15 million barrels a day, okay? And we consume around 20 million barrels a day. So the deficit is around 5 million. This as of a couple of years ago. We did by 2020 become energy. In other words, we were producing as much as we were using, right? So, of course, that has changed just in a year because of the message being set by the current administration, which is doing a lot to cause inflation. Now, certainly the war in Ukraine is adding to the problem, no question about that. But the prices were going up far before that, and that's why basically over the past year, oil prices have literally doubled. They just have. So, where the average cost of a gallon of gas was around $2.50. In fact, according to these numbers, there's something like now around $5 average. Obviously some places are higher, some are lower, but that's the average cost of a gallon of gas in the U.S. at this point. And unless we see some significant change in direction of policy of the current administration, things that actually work, okay? And really, here's the only solution to it. I mean, they can play around and do a lot of different things, but until you increase supply, and you're the number one supplier in the world, you're not going to change the situation, which goes against their political, their beliefs, their agenda, I should say, because they want clean energy. They want it so badly that they're willing to put us through economic hardship, the entire world, frankly, and give dictators like Putin power which leads to war, which means people die. They're willing to take those kinds of risks just for green energy. Now, I'm not against green energy, but I'm sorry, I don't think that's worth it. And I think we should give the time. We have plenty of oil reserves in our own country. We've proven we do not have to be reliant on other countries. We were doing that just a year ago. We should have all hands on deck, all forms of energy that are commercially viable, and allow the technology to develop. Give it the time to develop. it's probably going to be years, if not decades, before green energy sources will be ready for prime time, so to speak, ready to generate the type of energy that we need to run our economy. The problem is the current administration is taking, in essence, the actions that they're taking are completely the opposite of what solves the problem. Like I said, I do not think this is accidental. I do not think this is because they don't know what they're doing or they're that clueless or they're that in the bubble. I think they know exactly what they're doing because they're doing everything they can to drive up the cost of fossil fuels so that then it gets to the point where the inefficient green energy, which is what it is right now, becomes commercially viable because the price of energy is so darn high, right? So what are they doing? Well, now Biden has decided he's going to release $1 million barrels. I'm so used to Democrats spending money, I just say dollars, right? But he's now going to release 1 million barrels of oil per day from the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve for the next 180 days. And as he put it out, it's going to, it'll be the largest release of oil from the reserve in history. Now, understand, the Strategic Oil Reserve is there for our military, for a military emergency, and it's about a 30-day reserve of oil for our military to defend our country. And so what he wants to do is reduce that by about a third, roughly, 25%. So what it means is he wants to take away some of our emergency protection, which makes us weaker overall, and it'll have a very minimal effect. We're using 20 to 25 million barrels a day. 1 million is not going to make much difference. It's just not. It's not going to be enough. We're still going to have a big shortage, and prices might come down a bit, but you're not talking about a significant difference. It's a political move because he knows the midterms are coming. He's also proposing to there's unused leases. There's something like 9,000 unused leases, and the argument they have right now is, well, why they're approved permits? Why aren't they using them on federal lands? They haven't issued any new ones in the last year, but why aren't they using the ones they have? Well, again, I already discussed that previously, but I'm going to discuss it further in the next segment. So, as always, if you want more information on how to navigate this and offset inflation, contact me at toll-free 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. And, of course, as we've been talking about quite often recently, inflation is the big issue right now, and the policies that our current administration are taking are doing nothing to help and, well, everything to harm further energy prices, which is the biggest driver of inflation costs out there. And recently, of course, Biden has stated he's going to release 1 million barrels of oil from the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve. That's our emergency reserve. It's supposed to be for the military if we are invaded, for example, and it's supposed to be about a 30-day supply for the military. And he's going to reduce that over 180 days by 180 million barrels, and then promises to replenish it when the price goes down again in the future. I don't know. Do you believe him? Everything he said, almost everything he said before, particularly around energy and stuff, has been, well, not true. He's lied. Let's put it that way. So I don't know that he's going to replace it. But what it does do is by reducing that. I mean, if you're I'm not saying somebody's going to invade us, but it'll also give us less ability to. It weakens us in our country. That's our emergency reserve, folks. Okay, that's just a really, really dumb idea, okay? It's again, They're sitting around trying to figure out, well, what else would hurt America? What else would be bad for America? And the second part is it's not going to do much to help, because we use somewhere around 20 to 25 million barrels a day as a country, depending on which source you go to. And if you're going to release or add 1 million to that, that's not going to make much difference. A little bit, yes, maybe, but it's not going to make a significant difference. And at the same time, you're going to weaken yourself as a country by reducing your emergency reserve. That just is foolish on every level. But I almost forgot. I forgot to mention this. So I better do it now before I forget. I'm really excited. I'm actually going to I have my first speaking engagement coming up April 27th here in Phoenix. It's the first speaking engagement I've had for over 2 years because of COVID. I'll be speaking at the Business Minds Unite on Wednesday, April 27th at the Renaissance Phoenix Downtown Hotel. If you want more information, go to businessmindsunite.com to get tickets. And if you put in the YPB code, that's for your personal bank, YPB, you'll get half off. So there's going to be a bunch of very successful speakers. This is going to be, like I said, learn the sales, organizational skills, all that kind of stuff to grow your business, finance, marketing, you name it. Hang out with a bunch of really successful folks. That would be a great event for you to attend. So, like I said, if you put in the code YPB, you can get it half off. If you've been a listener to this show, please do me a favor and introduce yourself to me. Love to meet you and chat, and I'll be sharing some ideas and with your personal bank, and even some things that I have not shared on the radio due to lack of time. So again, April 27th go to businessmindsunite.com for tickets, YPB for half price. So the million barrels a day, but on top of that, then he's now talking about using the Defense Production Act and basically declaring an emergency. And okay, Biden's not going to use the emergency powers to, say, increase oil production, which would be the one thing that would absolutely reduce energy prices and inflation. No, he's not going to do that, because that would be beneficial to Americans and America. That would be a positive thing for the middle class and for folks that are poor, well, just about everybody, right? For the U.S. citizens. No, he can't do that, because that would be a good thing. So we can't do that. No, instead, he's proposing to using the Defense Production Act to promote the use of clean energy. Now, folks, it's not commercially viable yet. He wants to needed to boost the critical materials, to bolster our clean energy economy, and all those kinds of things. The thing is, it's not ready yet. You could produce all the batteries you want. You could produce all the windmills you want. What do you do when the wind stops blowing? You can produce all the solar panels you want. I understand, though, that you have battery power, but the batteries don't have the technological capability to produce the type of energy we need to run our economy. It just is not there yet, okay? And so they're just shoving this down our throats. Like I said, it's an agenda that it doesn't, and it could be years, it could be decades before that stuff's ready. Yet he's going to focus energy on effort and energy on that type of stuff instead of just increasing production on the most the most efficient, economically energy sources we have, like natural gas, oil, even nuclear, things like that. Instead of, it's crazy. Again, it makes no logical sense or common sense, but that's not what they're here. That's not their goal. That's not the agenda, right? They have sold out completely and totally and 100% on this green energy thing. And ironically, I talked about this before, where Europe in particular, and of course the U.S. too, a lot of that was propaganda from Putin, okay? So they've fallen for Putin's propaganda, and they call him crazy. No, he's crazy like a fox. The dude outsmarted them, okay? They can't even see it. But it does, I don't even know, even if they realize it, I don't think it matters to them. Because again, if you want to understand something, follow the money. Clearly, obviously, there's a lot of money to be made by these insiders, establishment types, politicians, bureaucrats, whatever, in the green energy world. There's obviously, clearly, like I said earlier, a lot of money to be made. And so by pushing this and pushing this and pushing this and shoving it, literally just shoving it down our throat, forcing us to adopt and use green energy, even though it's not ready yet. It's like you're in sports. It's like a good analogy is you got a baseball team and you got a Major League Baseball team and you're playing in the playoffs, and this is a really important game. This is a critical game to advance in the playoffs or win the World Series or whatever it may be. And you've got a pitcher you've just brought up from the minors, and he's not ready yet. He's there to learn, but he's not ready yet. And you have another pitcher who's an all-star, experienced, well rested. He can get the job. Most likely, he's going to just get the job done. And you as a manager decide, no, you're going to put in this young rookie who has no experience and isn't ready yet to go out there and pitch. See, but it makes no common sense. It makes no logical sense. You would never do that, except they're not following common sense or logic here. Folks, it's about money. And I don't know all the details behind it. I don't have to know that. You don't have to know that. Why on earth would somebody push something like this so strongly to the complete, total lack of common sense? It's about money, folks. Stay tuned in the next segment. We'll discuss this further and some solutions and some good news. And as always, if you want to contact me, toll free 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. As we've been discussing today, inflation is the big economic concern, number one, folks, the Americans have today, and rightly so. And one of the questions I'm getting on a daily basis is how long do we think it's going to last? Because we're hearing all this stuff, and to cut through the noise, I think the answer is actually quite simple. And the answer is the number one driver of inflation, of course, is high energy costs. And what's the number one cause of high energy costs is the administration being hostile to the energy producers currently and not allowing any oil leases, for example, shutting down pipelines, and just basically doing everything they can to get in the way of domestic energy production, fossil fuel production, for their ultimate agenda goal of promoting green energy. And as I stated in the last segment, why are they doing that? Again, it's not logical. It doesn't follow common sense or reason. There's money involved, folks, and I don't know all the details behind it. I don't have to. You don't have to. But I assure you, there's money and or power, probably both, for these fanatics. I guess that's the only word I can think of. They're just complete and total fanatics about green energy. So it makes you think, if somebody's that fanatical about something, in other words, they've lost all common sense, and that's their 100% and total focus, they're absolutely bought. Bottom line is there has to be some major benefit to them down the road as a result. And I'm telling you, folks, it's about power and money, and probably both. So what I would say to you is any politician particularly that's supporting green energy and discouraging more efficient sources, economically efficient sources like oil, natural gas, and etc., nuclear, whatever, to help reduce our energy costs and reduce our inflation and this pain on the American consumer, that person should be voted out. They're not representing you and I. because we're all affected by this. So if somebody's supporting green energy, they need to be voted out and replaced because they're literally just looking out for themselves and not you and I. They're not representing us. And it's just that simple. It's that simple. It's not, this isn't right or left, liberal, conservative, Republican, Democrat. It's they are looking out for themselves and not the people they represent, which is you and I, the folks that are paying more for gas, for food, and everything else there is that we purchase, right? It's that simple. And of course, it's led by our current administration that are doing nothing to help and everything to hurt. Releasing 1 million barrels a day is going to make minimal benefit from the strategic oil reserve, is going to make minimal benefit and make our country weaker because that's our emergency reserve, okay? And then he's talking about using the Defensive Production Act, Biden is, to promote clean energy. Again, these people are fanatics. They are zealots, okay? No common sense, nothing. Now, there is some signs of encouragement, and in fact, a couple of them. One comes from a very surprising source, but when you again follow the money or follow the power, you're going to understand why. So Senator Joe Manchin, which is no surprise, and Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona, which is a huge surprise, are pressing President Biden to encourage oil drilling in the Gulf of Mexico. That would work. That would do a lot to reduce the cost of gas, because if you increase supply, you reduce demand. It's basic economics 101. Now, like I said, Joe Manchin has not been a surprise. He's been a somewhat independent thinker on various things. Mark Kelly, Arizona senator, many people don't know him from around the country, but he's been here for 2 years. He took over from I'm just totally drawing a blank. Our longtime senator who passed away ran for office, ran for president. Gosh, you know who I'm talking about. Anyway, he has voted. He's been the most liberal voting. Mark Kelly has had the most liberal voting record in the U.S. Senate, even though he's representing Arizona, which is not Arizona. He's not representing Arizona, but he stepped up on this to give him credit. But then when you think about it, the reason he's up for re-election this November, and maybe I would say my guess is he's finally woken up and come to realize having the most liberal voting record, following even being left of some of the most liberal Democratic senators, is not a winning. He's not going to win. He's going to lose his seat. And you know what? There's one thing that politicians, you can just about guarantee they want. They want to be elected, and they want to be re-elected, which again deals with money and power. So stay tuned in the next segment. I'm going to cover this and some of this more things and some encouraging stuff in the future, or that's coming up. But if you want to contact me, toll free 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. And as I was stating in one of the first segments, I'm excited because I'm going to be my first speaking engagement in over 2 years. It will be on Wednesday, April 17th at the Renaissance Phoenix Downtown Hotel. I'm going to be speaking for Business Minds Unite. It's a pretty exciting organization. They're bringing together a number of successful people with marketing, sales, business. If you want to grow your business, this is an event you want to go to. And if you go to businessmindsunite.com and you put in YPB, that's for Your Personal Bank, YPB, you'll get half off on tickets. So I hope to see some of you there. If you want to attend, I'd love to meet you. I think it's going to be a great event. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm encouraging you to come out and hear me speak. I'm going to be sharing some things about Your Personal Bank, some things about how to navigate this high inflation and soon a higher interest rate world that we're going to be dealing with, how to thrive through this. Some of the things I haven't had time to share on the radio yet even. So check it out. But Business Minds Unite, and again, Wednesday, April 27th. And YPB, for the half price discount. So check it out. So as like we've been discussing inflation, that's the big 800-pound gorilla out there right now that's affecting everybody. As we know, it's high. It's continuing higher. We haven't crested that hill yet. Unless, to answer the question, I was going to do that in the last segment, I just didn't quite get there, is how long is this going to last? Well, simply put, and I've shared this in some previous shows now, until our current administration makes dramatic changes in terms of their energy policy, and the real solution is frankly increased domestic production. That's really the only solution that's going to really drive prices down. Until they do that, we're going to be dealing with high inflation, because high energy costs is going to be equal high inflation. It may not be at the high level, the levels we're seeing at the moment, but it'll be much higher than average. Higher than average energy costs will equal higher than average inflation. It's just plain and simple. It's math. Now, some of the good news from that, like I said, we've got some senators, Senator Joe Manchin and Senator Mark Kelly here from Arizona, starting to step up and say, hey, Biden, we need to address this, and they're encouraging allowing drilling in the Gulf of Mexico, for example. That's definitely a step in the right direction. Now, will they listen? We're going to find out, aren't we? But I wanted to touch on another subject here, because I think it's so important. We can't ignore it. I know inflation is a huge issue, and I know we were dealing with COVID and all the shutdowns and everything else out there, and that's kind of, for the most part, for most people in the country, behind us. But there's still some remnants of it. And one issue that just came to my attention here that we just can't ignore, and like I said, this is going to share with us a bigger picture warning for the future. And what it is Los Angeles, which is the center of liberal policies. I mean, you're talking about the bluest of the blue, probably in the country. And it just to me, it gives us a measure. It's like an example of what if we allowed liberal, Marxist, far left policies to take over the rest of our country. This is what the type of stuff we're going to see. So, there's been a rent moratorium in LA for about 2 years. So in other words, eviction moratorium. So if you had a renter, if you're a landlord, you were not able to remove a tenant, whether they pay you or not. Now, you still have to pay for the mortgage and the interest and the taxes and everything else. And if you were you're a landlord, and you were relying on some of that or much of that income to, say, support retirement or supplement retirement, as many of my clients do, okay, that income just went away. Yet you're stuck paying it. And they've been dealing with this for the last couple of years. And I've shared this before, something like roughly half of all landlords in the United States are small mom and pops. It's people with a handful of properties, and a lot of times retirees is who it is, who are just had worked hard, saved some money, bought some properties, fixed them up, rented them out to supplement their retirement. That's what about half of retirement of rental properties in the country are. They're not the big corporate conglomerates. Yes, there are some of those, but a lot of times it's just your grandma and your grandpa. Okay, well, these people have been forced to pay these mortgages on these properties, as most of them have, and taxes and all those other things, insurance, and receiving sometimes no income, and they've been stuck for 2 years. Well, the renter eviction moratorium was set to expire apparently on January 25th. And of course, the common sense in Los Angeles County, the common sense thing to do is let it expire. COVID's behind us, right? Anybody who wants a vaccine has probably gotten the vaccine. In fact, they've probably gotten a booster or two by now, right? Well, they decided, of course, to extend the moratorium. Now, not only did they decide to extend the moratorium, which is crazy in and of itself, but they extended it all the way well into 2023. So think about this a minute. You're a landlord. You have a renter that's not paying you. Legally, you cannot evict them. You're needing this money to survive, to supplement retirement or whatever. You've been stuck paying your mortgage, taxes, insurance, or whatever for the last 2 years, And now they're telling you you're going to have to do it for another year plus. Okay? And it turns out tenants earning at or below 80% of the area median income cannot be evicted before June of 2023 in Los Angeles County. I mean, it's beyond crazy. They cannot be permitted to evict a tenant for nuisance, unauthorized occupants, or pets. They can bring dogs, they can bring in other people, they can be a nuisance in the neighborhood. You cannot evict them before June of 2023. I mean, you want to talk about these are small business owners is what they are, okay? They are just regular people who are just trying to do the right thing. Like they said, they worked hard and invested, and now they're paying the price for doing the right thing. And these people who are taking advantage of the system, like many of them saying, we drive by there and we see them getting food delivered, buying new cars or doing all these kinds of things, but they're not paying us rent, and there's nothing we can do about it. Some of them even said they seen them buy new boats and things like this. Crazy stuff, but there's nothing they can do about it. This is what happens when you have out of control government, and people in government using no common sense, using these crazy ideas that they have, Marxist, socialist ideas, and picking winners and picking losers. And if you're on the wrong side of this, basically you're out of luck. It's crazy. It's just crazy. So we're still dealing with remnants, I should say, of COVID in some places like Los Angeles County. No wonder so many people are moving out. Another thing, sticking with the real estate thing, the Federal Reserve just came out with a report stating that the real estate market is now, they warn, is unhinged and abnormal, and warns of another housing bubble as average cost of new homes hit a record high. The average cost in the United States now in February 2022 is $511,000, which happens to be about double of where it was about in 10 years ago. So the prices have doubled in the last 10 years and spiked about 25% over the past year. And some of the cities with the highest spikes, of course, are Phoenix, Miami, and Tampa. The point is, they said we haven't seen this kind of bubble in this report since the 2008 bubble. Now, there are some things underlying. We've talked about in some previous shows. We don't anticipate an 08 type of burst of that bubble, but there's going to be a bursting bubble is what they're stating, and because of the skyrocketing housing market. Now, I find it ironic that the Federal Reserve is the one that's warning about a housing bubble and costs of new homes hitting record highs, when basically they were the number one buyers of the underlying mortgages, or one of them, for the last couple of years because of quote-unquote COVID. In other words, they were buying $40 billion, that's with a B, a month, $40 billion of mortgage-backed securities a month for nearly 2 years. They just stopped doing that about a month ago. So who drove up those prices of all this real estate, and who created or had a lot to do with creating this new housing bubble? You guessed it, the Federal Reserve. And their job is supposed to be to stabilize our economy and keep things. No, they are creating in a big way this boom and bust economy that we've had to deal with now. And as they get more involved and more involved in our economy, we're seeing more and more of these booms and busts. So if you have the Federal Reserve causing a housing bubble and then warning about it, and we've got record inflation, and they're the ones that are in charge of supposedly of taming this, and they're going to try to reduce this, and what they're trying to say is create a soft landing, a minimal economic pain. Do you trust them to actually accomplish that? Based on their previous actions, they've given a zero confidence that they are able to accomplish anything positive in the economic world. And this is me saying this as a banker, okay? Maybe it'll cost me a board seat, but at this point I don't care. I'm so frustrated absolutely and totally frustrated with the actions that our government or quasi-government agencies or bureaucracies are taking to do anything but help us, and it almost seems like everything to hurt us, and creating these booms and busts and bubbles and everything else in record inflation. And then when there's clear and obvious solutions, like with oil, just drill more, just generate more supply. The answer, the solution is simple. It's in front of your face. And they refuse to do it because they have an agenda. And they refuse to represent us. I'm sorry, that frustrates me. That frustrates the tar out of me. And I get really, really irritated when I think about those things. And I'll tell you what, folks, I hope and I pray, I truly do, that enough Americans have woken up and realized, see, these are the people that need to be woke, awakened, right? Awake. And I do believe that is the case. That's where my encouragement is, because I see the polling numbers. I talk to people on a daily basis. I see the frustration and the anger. And rightly so, because there are some very, very simple common sense solutions that would do much to alleviate the economic situation rapidly. Yet they absolutely refuse to do it. Again, due to agendas, they refuse to represent us as Americans, as citizens, as people that do the right thing, that go to work, raise our families, build our businesses, and, pay our taxes and try to do the right thing and get, like the landlords in Los Angeles County, get nothing but burn for it. Just get screwed over. And I'm sick and tired of seeing these things happen. We need to elect people that are going to represent us, the citizens of the United States, the good people, not the freeloaders, not the entitlement ones, not the ones with agendas because they want to make more money or gain more power and benefit themselves to the exclusion of everyone else, who want government to take over and control every aspect of our lives. No, we need people that are going to allow us to live our lives peacefully so we can pursue, like the Declaration of Independence said, the pursuit of happiness. Now, if you want to help get information, talk to me about how to navigate all this. I am positive about our country over the next 3 to 5 years, but somewhat pessimistic over the next 1 to 3. We got to get through it. If you want help on that, contact me at toll-free 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. This show is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information. The presenter and guest on this program do not engage in legal, accounting, or tax advice. Professional advice regarding your situation should be sought if required. Products and riders may have limitations and may not be available in all states. Excessive unpaid loans may affect performance. Distributions may become taxable if not managed properly. Replacements may not be suitable for everyone. There may be charges when replacing coverage. Compare when considering a replacement. Dividend rates and baseline of credit rates may change. Contact yourpersonalbank.com for current rates.